Welcome to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy meets leadership. I'm your host, Matt Doing, family guide, business advisor, and believer in generational purpose. Our aim is to inspire and equip you to lead your family so that together you will experience compounding wealth in all 7 capitals through the generations. Each week we uncover timeless wisdom, cultural dynamics, and practical tools to help you lead with vision, live with intentionality, and build a flourishing family that multiplies in impact. Let's get to work. The dynasty starts now. Welcome back to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy meets leadership, and we help you build a family that flourishes for generations. I'm your host, Matt Doing. Today's episode is really special to me. You're going to hear from a young man who, in many ways, embodies what we're praying for in the rising generation: courage, conviction, and a deep sense of family and faith. His name is Jayden Morris. Some of you have heard me mention his parents before, Sean and Trudie Morris. Many of you might know them. Dear friends of ours and parents with us in this whole family dynasty vision. The Morris house is a dynastic house. South African roots, generations in the wine industry, decades of global ministry and business, carrying the gospel and building churches around the world. Jaden is the son who's been watching all of that close up. But here's what I love. He's not just the pastor's kid or the business kid or the legacy kid. He's a young man who has had to wrestle with the same questions your sons and daughters are wrestling with. Who am I really? What am I called to do? How do I honor my parents and my family's story without losing myself in it? Jaden's story is wild and global. Born in New Zealand in what his parents described as a miracle birth after being told they couldn't have children, raised in Australia, summers in South Africa with big extended family, then a move to the United States to chase a dream in elite basketball, Huntington Prep, Sierra Canyon, Rancho Christian in California, surrounded by future D1 and NBA talent. From the outside, it looked like the script was written: scholarship offers, a paid-for college path, the classic sports success story. And then he walked away, not out of laziness, not because he couldn't hack it, but because before God, he became convinced basketball was the leapfrog, not the destination. He sensed a different calling toward faith, toward business and entrepreneurship, toward serving families. And he had to own that before the Lord, even when it put real strain on his relationship with his dad for a season. That part of his story matters, because every dynastic family will eventually face that moment. The moment when a son or daughter has to say, I love you, I honor you, but I have to stand before God for my calling. In this conversation, you're going to hear Jaden talk about what it was like to grow up in a global, gospel-centered dynastic family, how his miracle birth and his sister's miracle adoptions have shaped his view on family, why he believes his generation overestimates what can be done in 1 year, and massively underestimates what a family can do in 100 years. The tension between comfort and challenge in young people today, and why faith in Christ is not a bolt-on accessory to life, but the only way to walk forward into the unknown future without being paralyzed by anxiety. We'll also talk about how he's thinking about marriage, children, and legacy as a young man now studying hospitality and entrepreneurship in the Swiss Alps. If you're a parent or a grandparent, I want you to listen for how Jaden describes the journey with his dad, from deep investment in a dream to disappointment to deeper trust and friendship on the other side. If you're a young adult listening, I want you to learn how Jaden talks about calling, patience, and letting God set your direction, not just your ambition or your fears. This is the kind of conversation I pray my own children and grandchildren will be having, anchored in Christ, honest about tension, and full of hope for what God can do through a family line over generations. All right, let's jump in. Here's my conversation with Jayden Morris, coming to us from Switzerland. Well, Jaden, so wonderful to be here with you today. How are things over there in Switzerland?
Things are great. Things are great, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we could find some time in the season right before Christmas is coming up, New Year's is coming up, and things get a little crazy. So yeah, I'm excited to jump into some questions, some answers, and just a conversation with you today.
Yeah. Well, Jaden, I don't know if you know this about me, but I absolutely love hanging out with young people like you. I get
Yeah.
fired up by your energy. And now I know you because you are the son of my business partners and dear friends, your mom and dad, Sean and Trudie Morris. But
Yeah.
there is more to the story of Jayden Morris. So let us know who is Jayden Morris? Who are you? You're like a rock
Okay.
star.
No,
You amaze me
no, no,
what I
no.
know about you. Tell us about yourself. Obviously, the accent. You're not American. You spent a lot of
I'm
time
not
in
American.
America, but
I'm
that
not
accent
American.
doesn't naturally happen in America.
Sometimes the American influence comes out because I lived there for a number of years. But yeah, who am I? I obviously am the son of Sean and Trudie Morris. And I think to start answering that question, you must always look at the parents. And I look at my parents with a lot of reverence, a lot of honor, because they have been movers and shakers, spreading the gospel in building churches all across the world, in business, and so many of these different things, always putting God first. And so, who I identify myself with comes a lot from how I saw them identify themselves. And this was children of God, and this was bringing light, and this is something that I'm trying to reflect God's light through my life as much as possible.
Fantastic.
And just a little bit about my story. I was born originally in New Zealand. I have
I
no
did not
memory.
know that. Oh my goodness! See, I love it.
I was I was born originally in New Zealand. It was kind of a miraculous birth. My father and mother couldn't have children, and one day I kind of popped out, which was pretty fun for them. And yeah, I was born in New Zealand. After 18 months, I believe, we moved to Sydney, Australia. We spent a few years, and then Melbourne, Australia, which I remember as the place in which I grew up.
Yeah.
So from the ages of like 5 to about 15 for 10 years or 11 years. I lived in Melbourne in the eastern suburbs. Very nice area. I went to a great school being in Australia, and I went to a Christian private school, and being surrounded by it wasn't because we were so young, it wasn't necessarily like everyone was they were Christian because their families were Christian in
Okay.
the school. But it wasn't necessarily like we're all just kids
Yeah.
at first.
Hmm.
But as time progressed and things move along with age, you also get more discernment, and people start really following the Lord for themselves. And to have that baseline network growing up
Yeah.
as an influence
Hmm.
to, every time you stumble, you may stumble 7 times, but you get up again. And you get up because you have friends around you and you have God by your side. And these are the influences that I was presented with at a young age, which I definitely thank my parents for even putting me in that position.
Yeah.
And then yeah, at 15, I picked up basketball about a year or two prior to the age of 15, a little bit late, but I started to have a talent for this new sport.
Well, let's get into basketball in just a second. But before we move away from Australia, I have a question. Now, you come from a dynastic house, and your mom and dad both were born in South Africa, and
Yeah.
the Morris house was historically, kind of a renowned winemaking family for centuries in South Africa, right? But anyway, in Melbourne, were you around extended family, like grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles? Did you have any of that?
Unfortunately, being in Australia made it difficult to see extended family
Hmm.
because we were so far away. So I would estimate around once every 2, once every 3 years, we'd go all as a family back to South Africa, and we would see pretty much everyone,
Yeah.
the whole extended family.
Well, we'll talk.
And yeah, and luckily, though, as us cousins, my extended family, my cousins, we grew up, and technology also moved forward. Just these small interactions, we share blood. Like it was so natural, even if like we hadn't seen them before. It was so natural. I remember my grandparents came once to do a camping trip into rural Australia, into the outback. that was a great experience. And then with technology, I've kept in contact with my cousins, and hopefully in the next not this Christmas, but next Christmas, we'll all be back together again. Because
Fantastic.
there is nothing like the whole collective family being in
Yeah, you are
one place.
truly a global family, the Morris house. So before we get back to basketball, you have two sisters that are also miracle children in their own way. Tell us. So there's three of you siblings. Tell us
There,
about your two sisters.
yes, so there's three of us. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby.
Mhm.
And before I was born, my parents were given an incredible opportunity to adopt first one little girl, and it ended up being two
Mhm.
little girls. They had contact with someone in Austria, which they lived for also 11 years. They planted a church there, and then one of their friends had this. Sorry, not in Austria, back in South Africa. One of their friends had this unwanted pregnancy that came up, and the mother was kind of confused. They didn't know what to do. And they just knew that she wanted her child to go to a Christian family.
Mhm.
And so through this relationship, this person reached out then to my parents, like, would this be possible? And long story short, the first one, my older sister, Sabrina, she was adopted by my parents. My parents flew to South Africa. They were there through the process, everything, which was incredible. And then about 18 months later, after already moving back to Austria, they got a call, and it was the same mother, the same father, and again they wanted to give her up for adoption. And so the first call was obviously my parents. Like, she wanted both her children to grow up together, at least.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they reached back out to my parents, and they wanted a lot of kids originally. So the fact that they couldn't have any, they were straight onto the plane. And yeah, they went to adopt my middle sister, then Amber. And so both my sisters now living in Australia, finding their place in the world and trying new things. And it's just, from my experience, my life would never be the same without them. I know my parents' life wouldn't be the same without them, and they tie the whole family
Well, I just
together.
wanted to make sure we brought your sisters into it because I know how tight you guys are and how much,
Yeah.
what a unit you are together. So Sabrina and Amber, wonderful to hear a little bit about their stories. So basketball, you didn't grow up, dribbling basketball right out of the womb. You were a little bit of a late taker to this sport, but then it just took off for you. Tell us about the basketball chapter.
Yeah, well, I always grew up sporty. I was trying every sport in the book, whether it
Well, and both of
be.
your parents were elite athletes, right?
Yeah, exactly,
It's in the
exactly. So
genes.
they always loved sport.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I wanted to do a sport, they were like, "No worries, sign you up, go for it." So I did tennis, soccer, swimming, all these different sports, a little bit of golf even. And then I kind of stepped back, funnily enough, from trying all these sports. And because none of them really took hold, but because I was naturally athletic, I could always get by. And I just started playing video games. So many video games. And one time, my one of my best mates, he was like an elite basketball player. He was tall. I think at this time we were about 15, and he was like 6 foot and like growing rapidly. And he was just an excellent basketball player. He told me like, "Hey, like, why don't you come play basketball at lunch in school?" And I just stopped playing, and I'm playing and I'm playing. Okay. And now I'm getting the hang of dribbling the ball a little bit, and it feels quite natural. And then I started getting into properly playing on the weekends. In Melbourne, we'd always have like club teams, not school teams. Like in America, we'd have these club teams that played on the weekends. So I'd go and I'd play like every week. And then I got a trainer. One of my coaches suggested to my father, like, "Hey, Jaden's pretty good naturally, but he needs to hone his skills." So we got a trainer. And from there, I just started training a lot, and I got much better. And through my father's connections to some people in Huntington, West Virginia, which is in the tri-state area,
Mhm.
he had some connections there, and they reached out because there was a very well-known basketball team, Huntington Prep,
Yeah, for
that
sure.
was located. And so COVID happened, and I flew out because in Australia everything was closed, and if I was going to pursue basketball, this was the ticket.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
Huntington
went to
Prep. Yeah. So you went there.
yeah,
Mhm.
I went to Huntington Prep. I went to America. I started playing basketball, and yeah, it was good. It was full on.
And this is an NBA feeder program, really, right? This is the
Yeah,
feeder program to all D1 programs, NBA. Like there's
yeah,
a bunch of
yeah,
NBA players that came out of Huntington Prep.
yeah. And we would have D1 scouts watching practices and stuff. So the level was really high,
Mhm.
which was an excellent experience.
Yeah.
And what happened over time, I also became friends with a really good basketball player named Trent Flowers. He's now playing for Chicago in the NBA. And we ended up moving from Huntington Prep. There was some things happening, and anyway, my life at this time wasn't the most stable because we had just moved and we didn't really have a place to stay for a long period of time. We'd have places in here and there and here and there. But I think by the end of it, we probably lived in 10, 15 different
Because your
places.
parents came with you, right? They didn't just send a 15-year-old over here to find
Yeah,
his way on his own. They came with you. You were living together with mom and dad, and they were helping you
yeah.
find your way here in America as you got established. So anyway, things were happening. What happened after Huntington?
After Huntington, I went to California.
Uh-huh.
I went to Sierra Canyon, which is quite a prolific basketball academy. Had
Understated.
some major names there, and
Right, you played with Bronny James there, weren't you? A teammate
yeah,
with him?
yeah, exactly. And so that was really cool experience. The atmosphere and the high school experience there, though, is unlike anything I've ever seen. They had, camera crews filming like a documentary about Sierra Canyon's basketball team. And it was just a very interesting atmosphere.
It was
And
more
coming
about
from,
Hollywood than it was about basketball on some
yeah,
days, I'm sure.
yeah, it did feel a little bit like Hollywood sometimes.
Mhm.
But it was also every experience, whether there was positive moments, negative moments. In the end, I take it all as just a great experience.
Yeah.
And so from there, I made a pivot to another school. At this point, I I didn't really even want to continue playing basketball because I had injuries and whatnot, and the CIF was saying that I'm not legible to play for another six
Oh, I
months.
remember that.
And
Let's go.
yeah,
Wow.
I went back to Australia, saw my friends again after COVID, saw my sisters again after COVID. And at that point, yeah, I just wanted to leave it all in the past and just finish. And my father got in contact with a school in Southern California in a little wine region called Temecula. And he was talking to the coach there. And my father, the best thing my father ever did for me in my life was not letting me quit then
Hmm.
in basketball. I was back in Australia. I was with my friends again. Life was easy. Life was good. There was no stress. And my father just did not let me quit to the extent of reaching out to the school and to see if they could give my best friend back in Australia a scholarship to go to the school. Like my father was so adamant of me coming back to America and continuing basketball that
I can get
he
you back if I can get your friend to come too.
yeah, if he made it possible for my best friend to come.
Yeah.
So it happened. We went. It was the best 2 years of my life. I played a year there, And
And this
I
is
again
this is
had,
Rancho. What's the name of the school?
yeah, this is Rancho Christian
Yeah.
in Temecula Valley.
Right.
And I went, and it was a great experience. At this point, I was behind with my basketball skills. Already I started later than most, and with a bunch of injuries and stuff, my confidence kind of retreated. But other than that aspect, it was an excellent experience. And then continually, I struggled with my knees and my tendons throughout, and I ended up making a decision to stop basketball altogether. It was coming for a long time. I lost interest in the sport.
You were
I
recruited D1 though. I mean, you could have played D1, right?
I had interest if I kept playing potential offers.
Mhm.
And at this point, I had already a lot of friends that were D1 or D2 or in college programs.
Mhm.
And it is just ruthless in these programs.
Yeah.
With COVID, with the backlog of players, it was crazy. And it's not like football where you have in a team, I don't know, like 100 players, or
Right.
it's basketball. You have like 12,
Mhm.
maybe 15, but
Mhm.
the last five are just kind of for training,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
like red shots. And so, yeah, it was very difficult. And I ended up then deciding to stop basketball for the last senior year of high school and change direction on which path I wanted to go. And I was anyway more interested in entrepreneurial things
Yeah.
and more interested in business aspect and all these things.
I remember, so in the Temecula time, that was when Megan and I, my daughter Megan and I, had taken a
Yeah.
month to fly around the country in our airplane together, and we made a stop there. And I remember we went out to this beautiful winery that your parents took us out to, and we had
Yeah.
a delightful meal. And I remember we talked about basketball some, but you are so engaging on the entrepreneurial front. It doesn't surprise me that this has been your track. So yeah, talk to us more about this. You wrestled with the decision, decided to move away from basketball, really go all in with entrepreneurship. And so where has that led you?
Well, it's led me to Switzerland in the end,
What a
which
place. Poor guy. I'm sorry you're suffering for Jesus in Switzerland.
no, but I'll take a step back before we jump into that. And I think one really important thing to note in this time of my life, I was 18 years old. My parents had invested time, energy, everything into my basketball career. And so when I wanted to stop playing, especially my mom was always, she was always there gonna love me, like, but my father and I's relationship kind of took a hit in this process, which I can understand. It feels a bit like a betrayal, or you know
Right, he invested a lot. He kind of saw where you were going with it, and he didn't want to see you squander your talent.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I could have had my college paid for,
Mm.
with all this stuff. And I just felt like God had a different calling. I anyway had a previous prophecy telling me that basketball was just a leapfrog. And so in this moment, I really just felt like it's time for me to make a decision about what I feel called to do. It can't be my parents telling me, Jaden, you're called to do this. It can't be teachers telling me, Jaden, you're called to do this. It has to come from God, known by me, shared with the world.
Amen.
And you can have prophecies and you can have this building you up,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, it's a private conversation with God. And so it was very difficult for my relationship with my father at first. However, over time, in reflection, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to our relationship. And now more than ever, we want to work together. We want to connect more,
Yeah.
and it's a really beautiful thing. My father also, I remember, told me that he's proud that I stood up
Mhm.
for what I believed in that moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I quit basketball fully. I stopped, and I had a meeting with the coach, and the coach understood, and everything was good. And then I was in my senior year of high school. Like, this whole time, my whole high school experience had been tied to basketball. And so I was just kind
Your
of like
identity,
lost.
right?
Oh
That's
yeah,
who I am.
I have so much free time.
Yeah.
And a really important thing that happened is my attention for class and for education grew a lot.
Mhm.
And for the first time, I think since I was like 10, I actually read a book from English class, a full book. It was 1984, George Orwell,
Mhm.
excellent book.
Right.
And I read this book and I talked to the teacher about it. I was really engaged with this story, and something just opened up.
Yeah.
The world of academia just opened up
Huh.
to me. And it just felt like,
You are your father's son.
yeah. And it just felt like this is really what intrigues me more than anything. I love sport and I love activities, but this writing and reading and hearing people's thoughts, ideas, the movements, the history, the geography, all these things
Mhm.
make so much sense to me. And so it intrigues me so much. And so I switched my line of thinking to studying in university, something along the business lines still. And so I came across a course they presented in my school, high school, before I graduated, and it was Swiss Education Group. They had a school here in Switzerland, and it's hospitality and entrepreneurship. It's like business, hospitality, and entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
So already so far, the courses have been absolutely excellent,
Mhm.
really, really engaging, really interesting, and it's a 4-year degree. And so now I am here. I am in Switzerland, up in the Alps, in a small ski town called Brig. And yeah, I'm studying here, living here still for 3 years.
That's amazing. Try not to smile too big, Jaden. Try not to smile too
Oh,
What a life. That is so amazing. I want to go back to, I want to just highlight this, that you are such a great case study of what we want every young person to go through. Owning your own journey, owning your own calling, owning your identity in Christ and who he has created you to be. Because this is like when we say, what is the healthiest family dynasty, the healthiest family system with this dynastic intent is when those in the rising generation find out who they are independent from the family,
yeah.
their own self identity. And then instead of pulling away from the family, they come back as an individual and offer themselves to the family, understanding the boundaries of where they as an individual start and stop and the family starts and stops. That you don't
Yeah.
get sucked into this codependency that you have to do everything that your family tells you to do. You need to be an individual,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
strong individual identity and sense of your individual calling, to then be able to understand what is the collective family calling and begin to offer yourself into that. And it's just like, even at your young age, Jaden, to see you having matured through that critical step, I just cannot celebrate that enough. And I see the way you and your dad are and how often you talk and how tight you are. And I know he couldn't be more proud of everything that's going on in your life. So another thing you said, you kind of talked about the video game season and then life was easy. And I'm so glad my dad didn't let me quit at that point. It makes me think just of this. Let's talk about culturally, others your age. What do you think young men, young people in general, are they craving more challenge or comfort these days? What is the status of young people in the world? And you've seen, like, having lived in Australia, born in New Zealand, you grew up in Austria some of that time. You lived in the United States for several years. You more than young people, you have seen cultures of the world.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, it's hard to condense it into two. I think a lot of people are craving comfort over challenge. However, there is a swell and a group of the emerging generation that are striving for challenge. Really, I see on both ends, people are going very much in two different. You have I feel not so many people just in kind of the middle of like, they like a bit of challenge and a bit of comfort. People tend to sway like, okay, if I'm going to be challenged, I'm going to be challenged.
Mhm.
If I'm going to have a bit of comfort, I'm going to be comfortable.
Mhm.
And I think in both cases, you can challenge yourself and it can also have a negative effect.
Mhm.
You can over kind of put yourself in positions of too much responsibility before your time.
Mhm.
But if you also never take any responsibility, you're not going to grow.
That's true.
And so what I see in my generation is people want the two extremes, and they're not focusing on how do we balance these? How
Yeah.
do we bring them in together? Because comfort inherently isn't evil. Staying in comfort for a prolonged period of time will cause destruction there.
Right.
They 100%.
Well,
Not
and I
just
think
to you.
looking at your life and considering just trends, not to cut you off, Jaden, but I think what I
No,
see that you're doing, and you can react to this, is you put yourself in part of growth is getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
exactly.
But I think what I see in the rising generation is we're gonna be so uncomfortable. We're gonna take ourselves out of any authority structure, and we're gonna figure this out on our own
Yeah,
because
yeah.
authority structure has no benefit to me. And what I see you doing, submitting there to a structure at the school, understanding the value of mentorship
Mm,
and process. Right.
yeah.
This is.
Patience also.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We lack patience, I feel. A
Lack
lot
of
of
patience.
people. This is another thing, just to go into the family dynasty overview.
Mhm.
This is one thing that I think a lot of people miss out is, I don't know if you've heard the quote, you overestimate what you can do in 1 year, underestimate what you can do in 10.
Yeah,
But think how much we truly underestimate what a family can do in 100.
that's right. Amen, brother.
It's just these are the kinds of things where the emerging generation, to be good stewards for the world, to be good stewards for society, needs to have a certain level of patience in order to make things happen in the correct way.
Yeah.
Because you can have a government system that maybe it's not functioning, and then you have this emerging generation who's, you know what, we're going to tear it down. But then what do you do when it's all rubble and ash?
Mhm.
It's just anarchy. And then what happens from anarchy? People normally with the wealth then outside of the government, they gain more control over the society. And anarchy usually tends to go to oligarchy, which will just inevitably put the society in more harm than it was to begin with.
Yeah.
So you can't just jump the gun. You can't just, I understand the passion. I understand this crave for change, this crave for, I see the world not as it should be, or I see the world not in which way God intended it. I need to do something about it now.
Yeah.
Yes, you do need to do something about it now, but now is the process, beginning the process of change, not just jumping the start and just trying to tear everything down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think with everything, there is a certain level of balance that has to come from, because it's very difficult as individuals to learn this by ourselves. It has to come, I learned from mentors. I learned from even examining my peers. I learned from all different kinds of views
Mm-hmm.
this lesson,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're just within yourself, you're going to be ignorant to your feelings, because your feelings feel real.
Right.
They feel like justifiable for any action depending on the strength of the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look back in hindsight, and when you really consider, okay, why did I do that?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's a lack of patience, a lack of self-control,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a view of, I need to change this now because it's not even going to be worth it to change in 10 years because the damage will be too great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you think of, everybody's on a journey, right? And it's like, some people are saying, you know what, ambition is just too hard. Let me just play video games. And
Also, that, yeah.
right. Or people are like, I'm all in. I'm all in. And they just, tear it up and wear themselves out. And so, but when I'm thinking, where does faith intersect for a young person in helping them really determine meaning and find that course forward in life?
I think faith, in my experience, plays the pivotal role, the pivotal mind altering. Christ talks about the renewal of the mind and the heart turning from stone to flesh and all these analogies. It's just a change in being.
Mhm.
And I think in terms of finding meaning and in terms of finding this balance of progressing forward righteously, of moving forward but not running off the cliff before the bridge is built,
Yeah.
but also not just sleeping and then the bridge never gets built.
Yeah.
Finding all these ways forward in life. Faith has to be the center because it's how we orientate ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we see anxiety, depression, all-time highs in this new coming generation. And a lot of this is because people are kind of like, my generation is kind of sitting there like which way? Which way do we go now?
Mm-hmm.
And what's difficult is whether it's parental or societal, any kind of pressure that it may be, it's saying you should know what you want to do.
Right.
Like, oh, what do you want to do? And when you do choose something you want to do, you have to stick to what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise then you're a failure, or otherwise then your self-control is not great enough, your perseverance is not great enough.
What I hear you go ahead, keep going.
But a lot of times I feel that, like with Moses, God tells Moses to go,
Mm-hmm.
to leave, to go. And that's all Moses needs. He doesn't need to know all the steps,
Right.
all the plans, everything. He just needs a direction.
Right.
He just needs someone to be like, find a direction.
Yeah.
And start moving forward.
Yeah.
And the reason faith is so important with this thing is because as a young generation, when you feel like, if I go on one path, like I have to be on this path, otherwise you're anxious and afraid of, I don't know which path to choose. You need a faith aspect. You need Christ to be beside you through the storms, because you can't know what's coming next, and you can't foresee.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lord already knows.
Yeah.
And He's still with you.
That's right.
So through the confidence in Christ and through faith, whether or not you know your meaning, whether or not you package it up, wrap it up in a nice box and a gift and just say, yep, to the world, this is my meaning, this is my purpose. A lot of times your purpose and meaning is going to change throughout seasons, throughout your life. From being a single guy to then being married to having kids, you have different meanings and purposes.
There's different outflowings of that purpose and meaning. One thing it makes me think of, and believe it or not, I was your age once, and I think the difference I see is a life being formed around God's mandate that says, you must love me with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Have no other gods before me. Tear down any idols and keep that focus. Keep the main thing, the main thing. Someone who says faith is just a bolt onto my life. It's there. It's kind of just one of the things that's in my life. It doesn't become the transcendent driving force and meaning behind life. But I remember watching, your dad sent me the video of your graduation speech from Rancho. And like I said, this is a young man whose center is Christ. So that whatever God takes you to, that transcendent calling and understanding that you're grounded in. God told Moses to go. God told Jaden, go. I'll take care of your next step. Just stay centered. Keep the main thing, which is focused on me. And I will make your path straight. I'll
Exactly.
take care of all the other things. And
Exactly
I
right.
see that. I see that in your life. And I just think, I hope that, a lot of young people will tune into this. We want to challenge you. It's the future, whether you have it figured out or you don't, figure this
Yeah.
out. Put the stake in the ground. Go deep, and don't ever let the foot off the gas when it comes to staying close to Christ.
No, it's so good. Exactly right. Exactly right.
So what are some of the misconceptions other than that? What are some of the misconceptions that you see your generation having with regard to even this idea of family or what it means to be successful?
I think that the biggest misconception I see in regards to family and when my generation views family is the family entity is kind of meant to be the hub of support, which in many ways it is this place where you are supported. You should be supported through the adventures that you individually go on
Mm-hmm.
in your life. You should have this safe place of support with your family that love you, care about you. But the misconception is that's the only role the family plays. And I think what I would want to challenge a lot of people is it's beautiful that your family is this, but it has to be more. It has to be not only this place of support and safety, but just like you have individual adventures and you're moving in different places, maybe traveling, I don't know, your family entity as a whole, it is the vessel in which you go on adventure.
Mm.
It is the thing that holds, and these adventures, these experiences, this is what really brings in the fabric.
Yeah.
And this is what knits together the family as a whole.
Yes.
And through that, it doesn't replace the support.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't replace the support, but as a support, it also moves forward on its own adventures. And whether this is business partner with my sister, or whether it's we go even just on a family holiday, we go explore somewhere new. These adventures and these memories, these are what build the family as well as the support.
Yeah. Well, I think you know all about what a sense of belonging, having belonged to, different groups in different schools and different communities, obviously sports teams, but God has put one of the deepest needs and longings of our heart is a place to belong. And he has
Yeah.
meant it to primarily be filled in family, hasn't he? There's something great about being part of a wonderful team. I've been part of teams that I really would not want to go back and be part of. I've been part of other teams. I'm like, that was amazing. But nothing that, and when a family is broken, right, the longing of our heart for it to become functional, where we do feel supported, is a deep pain and a deep longing. And it's worth every ounce of effort we have to maintain hope that it can be better. And
I think that's also
Go ahead.
sorry to cut you off. I think that's also another misconception, because a broken family is just another Tuesday these days.
Is another
Like,
one.
it's just another Tuesday.
Oh.
It's just another Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Right.
Everyone, it feels like, especially the people that I'm surrounded by, most of them come from broken households.
Yeah.
And a common misconception is that's just how it is.
Right.
Or that's
That's inevitable. That's my future, right? Everybody tried hard and it didn't work out. I guess that's the way it's going to be for me.
Yeah. And I think to tie it into the faith topic, you need faith to hold hope. You need faith to hold hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so a misconception is, and if you don't have faith in life, how can you even inspire someone to have hope of change?
Right.
Drastic change, because this is miraculous. In some cases, really miraculous change when these families come back together through a collective calling and meaning. This is it's a miracle. And if you were a sensible person without faith, you never would believe.
No, it is a journey of faith. And I mean, we've seen this so often, and I have a testimony in my own family that when you get serious about the calling God has on your family, we believe every bloodline, God has given a calling upon that bloodline. And when you get serious about identifying that and bringing the family around it, prodigals return. right? That's a part of your parents' testimony, is that after years of ministry in the church and having such lacking success of bringing prodigals home, they have, with this message and helping families frame their calling in the family table, prodigal after prodigal after prodigal comes home.
Mm.
And it's part of our story too, with my oldest son, right? In this process, it's been such a delight. What advice would you give to a young man who's torn between chasing his dreams and building something bigger? Yeah, what advice would you give a young man who's torn between this? Like, I have a dream I want to pursue. It's something I
Mm.
really want to accomplish,
Yeah.
versus building something bigger that can last. And so the obvious thing,
Yeah.
is, right? We're saying something that's bigger that can last might be more obscure. It might actually be,
Part of the dream, part of the path forward.
well, yeah, I'm saying, yeah, there's a place for them to intersect. But yeah, just like, what advice would you give a young man who's like, and this is the stage you're at, right? You talked about it. Oh, I need to choose this or I need to choose that. And what, play the movie forward. Where does this end? Is it a dream I want to pursue? Am I putting off? In other words, we see this many times. Is a young man or a young woman, oh, I've got time later to get married and have kids. I
Yeah.
need to pursue, my ambition and make sure I have a 6-figure income and can make my first few million before I settle down. How are you processing that? Right? Is young marriage in your as a potential for you, or are you thinking, nah, I gotta get established and wait till I'm in my 30s?
No. Waiting to my 30s for me would not be ideal because of the way I grew up. Also, my parents are much older than me. So Sean and Trudy, they're already in their 60s. And growing up as a kid, I love my parents to bits. I love the wisdom that they hold. But there are also times where I wish maybe my parents were a bit younger and I could do more life together with them. And so for me, going into, and obviously I know it's not anyone's fault, it's just the way God made it
Sure.
to be.
Yeah.
But in my ideal world, I would like to get married around mid-20s if God wills it,
Yeah.
and most definitely kids within the first few years,
Yeah.
because I think regardless of your dreams and your ambitions, one thing I think a lot of people will realize, especially as they get older and maybe they say, hey, no, I'm going to wait.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will realize that family is, outside of the Lord and following Him, is the most fulfilling
Yeah.
thing that the world can offer you.
Yeah.
It's the most fulfilling thing.
Absolutely.
And we don't have the longest time here on this earth, and it is difficult. You kind of have to piece your life together in this way, and a lot of people, or a lot of even media and all this, no, wait, think, don't be pressured, wait, and you're just gonna wait yourself to your grave. And at the end
Yes.
of it, what fulfillment is gonna come? There's when you are middle aged and you don't have a husband, or you don't, maybe you just have a husband and no children, and there is an emptiness, I think, and a void to so many people in this situation.
Oh my goodness.
It's very
Yeah.
difficult. It's very, very difficult. And
We.
so for me, it's an order of priorities,
Mhm.
that it's derived from faith. It's difficult for a lot of people because of their previous experiences. Maybe they come from a broken household and they don't see it in the same way.
Mhm.
But through faith, through the narrative of Christ, and through the whole biblical text, you see the importance and the fulfillment family brings, and that without it, there is no God moving mountains. There is no real move in this earth without these families.
Mhm.
And once you get that priority, I think regardless of your dreams, I think people think they have to choose one or the other.
Mhm.
You can go and build a successful business and be a parent at the
Yeah,
same
for
time,
sure.
whether male or female, husband or wife. There is this possibility, and it's strange to me that a lot of criticism for getting married young or having children young is, oh, like they aren't they chose this instead of pursuing what they really want to do, and now they're stuck in this life that they didn't want. And
Right.
no, I think there is time for
Yeah.
both. There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that your generation can really fall in love with God's law, God's best, right? His
Yeah.
rules are designed to provide for us and protect us. And as the generation hopefully just is awakened, like every generation needs to be, that messing around before you're married is not what God has designed for you. And it's
No.
hard to wait. For me, that was the motivation. I was married at 21. And sex was a big motivation. I got to tell you, for marrying young, and we just grew up with our kids, right? We didn't know any better. We thought we were going to wait a while to have kids, and we 2 years into marriage, we had our first kid. So we had our first child at 23, and I think these days that's pretty young. But we didn't know what we were doing. We kind of grew up with the kids. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of the younger you can have a family, start a family, the more you're going to be around for your grandkids and maybe see a chance for great grandkids. So
Yeah.
I know it's a big thing that young people are wrestling with. And I just want to say, to your point, there's nothing more fulfilling that God has given us on earth
Yeah.
than investing. It's hard work, man. It is hard work. And it is not every day and every week and every year you can say, oh, we had an amazing year.
Yeah.
No. But if you keep
No.
working at it, you keep your eye on the prize, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Marriage and family is absolutely amazing. So who is Jaden 20, 30 years ago, the husband, father? What is life like for you? Or who are you as a person? What are some of the things you think about and give yourself to 25 years in the future?
Well, I hope and I pray for a big family. For one,
Mm-hmm.
I would like a big family. I think it's definitely partially one of my dreams, one of my hopes. And outside of that, I hope to be like my father gives me so much inspiration, especially at this age. The way in which he secures our whole family through finances, through a bunch of different things, and the way he inputs his wisdom on me and the way he challenges me. I hope that in 20, 30 years, I will be much like him in the way that I challenge my children, in the way that I love my children, in the way that I invest wisdom and strength and provide support for them. I definitely want to be that kind of image of a father. I want to be just the best version of my father that I can imagine. That's who I want to be.
Yeah.
And also, I think I want to, hopefully, if God wills, and things just keep expanding and Family Dynasty keeps going and picking up, then we can move into some non-for-profit things, some, really shaking and moving communities, just helping, supporting difficult areas, this kind of humanitarian help and support. I think in later down in my life, I think I would definitely like to prioritize.
Well, what I love is that this is going to be recorded in a round that in 25 years, you can dig it up and look back
Yeah,
and see well, what has come true. But really, Jaden, what I dream and hope is that your children and my grandchildren will be working together in Family
oh,
Dynasty. We envision the vision we have for Family Dynasty as a consultancy is we want to be a generational blessing to generational families. And I know you share this vision with your dad, and only God knows the future, but it seems like you are on a track to serve the families that God is leading us to serve, and that they're there will be a time where you take on the mantle. I've heard you public speak. I've seen your gifts. I know your heart for God. And it's just my hope that the Doing House and the Morris House will continue for generations to be able to serve generational families for the glory of God. So.
Amen. That would be, I think it's most definitely the way God is moving, the way things are shaping. I think this is God's design. I think it's just for us to follow in his footsteps. Perhaps my grandchildren and your children's grandchildren will still be pushing this message forward, and then it would be really an amazing conversation.
That they can go back and listen to this. Like, yeah, they were talking about this back then.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Any final thoughts, Jaden, that you would leave with an audience specifically thinking of your generation when it comes to investing wisely, making decisions wisely, envisioning the future?
I think that the last message, the last thoughts I would impose is, you may think you have an open mind, but it's most likely a lot more closed than you're willing to admit. And so regardless of what influences have shaped your worldview, go back to the roots. Tradition is not evil nor the enemy. People can spin it this way, and perhaps in times different traditions have been harmful. Mm-hmm. But look at the Bible and look at the traditions in there, and look at the path that God laid out, especially if you feel lost or if you feel like you are anxious, afraid, don't know what to do. Look at the path in which God sent out his people, and God sent out and moved in different nations and different societies, and follow this. Look to God and look to his heart, and you'll most likely see the family.
Awesome.
You'll most definitely see the family.
Yeah. I think of this young man that your dad has shared this quote with you, no doubt. I know it impressed him greatly. He shared it with me, and it just lodged with me. Another young man who said, wow, when my family discovers their purpose, I have purpose, and it gives me hope for the future.
Yeah.
Don't you think that this is really a missing ingredient for a lot of young people who have not been part of a family system that has done the deep work needed to discover their family purpose and live it out in the way each individual, has unique lenses on that overarching family covenant?
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Well, Jaden, thank you. On your busy schedule there in Switzerland, not quite ski season yet. You're not going to hang up and go skiing, but
no, not yet.
This winter. Thank you so much for spending this time. It's a delight, and I know what you've had to share is going to really resonate with people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man.
God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy is built, not just inherited. If today's episode helped you lead your family with greater vision or purpose, share it with someone else who's building a legacy that lasts. And remember, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant. Deuteronomy 8:18. Keep building with faith, leading with love, and living for impact. Your family is your greatest calling.